The invasions of the early Islamic State, the Caliphate, were many. The mothers of the Islamic books give detailed descriptions of every battle. Prophet Muhammad said, "I have been ordered to fight against people until they say that there is no God but Allah, that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, pronounce the Shahada, or the Islamic creed, they pray, regularly perform the compulsory Islamic prayer 5 times in the day, and pay zakat, blood money. If they do that, accept Islam, their lives and property are safe." Sahih Muslim, Hadith number 33, and Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 1, Hadith number 387. Below is a copy of the message the Prophet Muhammad sent to the Julanda brothers, kings of Oman, through the intermediary of his messengers, Amr ibn al-As al-Sami and Abu Zayd al-Ansari. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. From Muhammad, the Messenger of Allah, to Jafar and Abdo, sons of al-Julanda. Peace is upon him who follows the guidance. Peace be upon the one who follows the right path. I call you to Islam. Accept my call, and you shall be unharmed. I am God's messenger to mankind, and the word shall be carried out upon the miscreants. If you recognize Islam, I shall bestow power upon you. But if you refuse to accept Islam, your power shall vanish, my horses shall camp on the expanse of your territory and my prophecy shall prevail in your kingdom. The historian al-Balad Huri, writing barely 2.5 centuries after the coming of the messengers to Sahar, a city in Oman, described the event in these terms. When the people of Oman shall have responded to the evidence of truth and shall have promised obedience to Allah and His Prophet, then Amr will be their emir, and Abu Zayd would be made responsible for conducting the prayers, for conveying Islam to the people and for teaching them the Quran and the precepts of the religion. Muslims in the West often claim that Islam stands for no compulsion in religion and it is the religion of peace. Are not the life and message of their own Prophet and his Mujahideen fighters contradicting them? As we shall prove in this chapter, such claim is false and flatly contradicts the violent message of Islam and how that dreadful Arab religion in short time has spread all over the world by the sword and through jihad. Narrated Abu Huraira, Allah's apostle said, "I have been made victorious through terror, and while I was sleeping, the keys of the treasures of the world were brought to me and put in my hand." Abu Huraira added, "Allah's apostle has left the world and now you, people are bringing out those treasures." Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 4, Book 52, Hadith number 220. Again the Prophet Muhammad said, "I have been sent with the sword between my hands to ensure that no one but Allah is worshipped, Allah who put my livelihood under the shadow of my spear and who inflicts humiliation and scorn on those who disobey my orders." Before his death, Prophet Muhammad had already made 2 attempts to invade and conquer the Romans, Byzantines. As we have seen in the previous chapter, both attempts failed. The first military campaign was led by Zayd, which resulted in his death and the defeat of his small army by the superior army of the Byzantines, 3,000 Mujahideen fighters against 200,000 Roman soldiers. The second invasion attempt was led by the Prophet himself. When Muhammad reached the border of the Byzantine Empire, he was frightened to death when he learned about the superior and powerful army of the Byzantines. Instead of admitting that their coward prophet withdrew from the battle because he was scared for his life, Muslim historians invented a different reason. They blamed the Jews of plotting a secret conspiracy to make the prophet fall in the hands of the Byzantines. They said the Jews told Muhammad there was no prophet of God that died before he visited Jerusalem. Prophet Muhammad believed their promise and acted on it. He marched with 30,000 fighters and 20,000 horses and tried to reach the Jewish holy city. At the border his way was blocked by 200,000 Byzantine and Arab soldiers. Fearing for his life, the chicken Muhammad fled back to Medina. Muhammad wanted to invade the Byzantine lands for one single purpose, to capture the women of the infidels and possess their lands and properties, and that he said it again and again in his hadiths. Muhammad inspired his men to war with the basest of motives, using captured loot, sex, and a gluttonous paradise as incentives. He beheaded captives, enslaved children, and raped women captured in battle. Muhammad said in many places that he has been ordered by Allah to fight men until they testify that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. This is the most authentic hadith because it is mentioned in 113 reliable Islamic texts. Both al-Bukhari and Muslim agreed upon it, and that is the highest form of authenticity. Prophet Muhammad used to tempt his mujahideen fighters with capture of female infidels. Commenting on Surah Al-Tawbah 9:49, Al-Tabari stated, the Prophet Muhammad said, invade Tabuk, the borderline of the Byzantine Empire, you will possess the girls of the yellow people, blonde girls, and the women of the Romans, white women. Al-Jad said to the Prophet, give us permission, and don't tempt us with women. Commenting on the same surah, Al-Tawbah 9:49, Al-Qurtubi said, when the messenger of Allah, Allah bless him and give him peace, was preparing for the battle of Tabuk, he said to him, O Abu Wab, would you not like to have scores of Roman women and men as concubines and servants? He said, O Messenger of Allah, my people know that I am very fond of women, and if I see the women of the Romans, the white girls, I fear I will not be able to hold back. So do not tempt me by them. One of his military leaders, a man by the name of Al-Jad ibn Qais, rebuked Muhammad and said to him, do not tempt us with women. Being confronted and exposed before his followers, Muhammad claimed that he has received the above verse from heaven, correcting Al-Jad bin Qais and calling him hypocrite, Surah Al-Tawbah 9:49. While Osama ibn Zayd, commander of Muhammad's army, was preparing his troops to commence the invasion of the Roman Empire and capture the lands of the Jews and Roman Catholic and Orthodox Christians, the Prophet Muhammad commanded him, saying, attack them in the darkness of the dawn and fall on them, killing and burn them with fire, and invade them and return with the booty. Ibn Habib in Al-Muhabbar, page 117, Ibn Kathir in Al-Bidayah and Al-Nihaya, pages 139, 143, Ibn Said al-Nas in O'Rian al-Atharig, page 145, Al-Sulai in Rad al-Anif, page 24, Ibn Hisham, page 245, and Al-Tabari in Tariq al-Rusul and Al-Mailuk, page 156. I believe, even Satan, the devil, might not give such evil commands to his demons. The first rightly guided Caliph Abu Bakr al-Siddiq repeated the same satanic instructions when he sent his Lucifer, Khalid ibn al-Walid, to fight the Arab apostates. Call them to re-embrace Islam. If they refuse, do not spare any one of them. Burn them with fire and kill them with force, and take the women and children as prisoners of war. Al-Tabari Part 2, pages 258-272. Following the orders of their caliph, Khalid and his fighters killed the surrendered apostates in very cruel ways, and that by beheading some of them, burning others, drowning some in deep wells, and while throwing majority of them from high mountains. As soon as Khalid ibn al-Walid finished the wars of apostasy, the Caliph Abu Bakr sent him to begin invading the lands of the Persian Empire in Iraq and the Byzantine Empire in Great Syria, Levant. At that time, the Persian Empire consisted of Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and many countries in eastern Anatolia and southern Russia. At that time, the Persian Empire was already depleted by its many wars against the Byzantine Empire. Both empires were not prepared to enter in any major conflict. As we shall see, this factor will contribute to the rapid military successes of the Muslim army in its many battles with the Persian and Byzantine armies. In a short period of 25 years, the Muslim state occupied the entire Persian Empire, the Levant, Egypt, and Libya. Khalid ibn al-Walid proved to be a military genius in all his battles with the Persians and Byzantines. According to many historians, Khalid ibn al-Walid had never lost a battle. He was just like Alexander the Great, never defeated in any battle. In one of his early battles, Khalid said to the Persian leader in Iraq, "We come to you with men who love death as your men love life, therefore submit to Islam and you will be spared." This statement is repeated today by the fighters of ISIS and other Islamic terrorists in every battle they wage. They always claim to be fearless fighters who love death. This statement revealed two important facts. Firstly, at that time, Muslims were in high spirits of fighting. They loved to fight because they believed that if they won they would get the 4/5 of the booties, women and wealth of the infidels, and if they died they would go to paradise and get the 72 virgins, and rivers of wine, milk, and honey. Secondly, the Persians were not willing to fight at all. They had to be forced to remain in the battlefields. In one battle, called the Zat as-Salasil, the Battle of Chains, the fighting Persians were chained to each other because their leaders knew that they would flee otherwise. Khalid ibn al-Walid fought 16 battles in Iraq against the Persians. Due to his military prowess he won them all. Every Persian who refused to accept Islam was killed. Many Persians were converted to Islam out of fear for the sword of Khalid. Today their descendants are the Muslim Iranians and Iraqis. In short time, all the inhabitants of Iraq became Muslims and the country automatically became part of the newly founded Islamic State of Medina. Later on, the capital of the Islamic Caliphate became Baghdad city in Persia, today Iraq. Muslims gained so much weaponry and booties in those battles. Medina was flooded with the loots and women of the defeated Persians and Arabs. Muslim historians proudly mentioned that at the time of the fourth Caliph Osman ibn Affan the people of Medina became filthy rich until the Jariya, female slave or female captive of war, was sold in pure gold equals her weight. In one particular battle, Muslims defeated the Persians and captured many women, children, huge plunders, and one elephant. When the elephant was brought to Medina, the Arab women asked their men whether that huge thing was created by Allah or made by human beings. It is just like, when the Native Americans saw the European settlers riding on their horses they wondered how those white people made their dogs so big. When Abu Bakr saw that Khalid won all the battles against the Persians, he decided to send him to invade the Byzantine Empire. Khalid left half of his troops in Persia and took the other half and moved to Syria, with 9,000 fighters. Abu Bakr had already sent an army under the leadership of Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah. Abu Ubaidah's army had already fought 4 small battles with the Byzantines and won 2 and lost 2. When Khalid arrived at Syria, he took over the leadership of the Muslim army. The Caliph Abu Bakr was the one who ordered that Khalid to be the main leader of the 2 joined Muslim armies at Levant. Khalid then fought 5 small battles against the Byzantines and won all of them. According to the Muslim scholar, Dr. Raghib el-Surgani, Khalid ibn al-Walid fought 11 battles in the Ridda Wars, Wars of Apostasy. He also fought 16 battles against the Persian armies and defeated them in all. In Alias battle, Muslims killed 70,000 Persians. Abu Bakr moved Khalid from Iraq to the Sham, Levant, to fight the Romans, the Byzantines. Muslim historians and commentators call the Byzantines, Romans. This is because the Quran calls the Byzantines, the Romans. There is one surah in the Quran called Al-Rum 30, Surah the Romans 30. The first major battle between the Muslims and Byzantines was called the Battle of Ajnadiyan, Jordan today. According to Dr. Raghib el-Surgani, there were 100,000 Romans against 33,000 Muslims. Caution: Muslim historians always exaggerate the numbers of the enemy. Before the battle, the Byzantine commander in charge of the battle asked the leader Khalid, "Why do you come to fight against us? Why don't you go and invade Ethiopia or Persia?" He even proposed to help the Muslims to invade the Persians. Then, he resorted to bribery to prevent the battle. He told Khalid that he was ready to pay each Muslim soldier 2 dinars, pair of clothes, pay 10,000 dinars to Khalid, and 20,000 dinars to the Caliph Abu Bakr. Khalid rejected the offer and insisted on the fight. He gave the Byzantines 3 choices: convert to Islam, pay the jizya to Muslims, or the sword, fighting. The Byzantines rejected the first 2 choices and went to battle at Ajnadiyan, Of course, the Byzantines were not willing to fight, and hence Muslims got the upper hand and defeated them. They killed 3,000 Byzantines. Shortly after that battle, the first Caliph Abu Bakr died and Omar ibn al-Khattab took over. The second Caliph Omar immediately removed Khalid ibn al-Walid, the so-called Saifullah or Sword of Allah, and reappointed the former leader, Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah instead. Omar justified his decision by saying that he was worried that Muslims began to put so much trust in Khalid rather than Allah. The majority of them were thinking that without Khalid they couldn't win any battle. Although Khalid was removed from the leadership of the army, but in reality he continued to be the brains behind any military maneuvers. Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah took no action or made any decisions without consulting Khalid. In the main decisive battle of the Yarmouk, Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah disobeyed the decision of the second Caliph Omar and stepped aside to give Khalid autonomous control. According to other source, the Byzantine king asked Mu'az ibn Jabal, "Why do you come to our countries and want to fight against us? Why don't you go and invade Ethiopia? We can help you to invade and defeat the Persian Empire." Mu'az ibn Jabal said to the Byzantine king, "God said we have to fight those who are close to us first, and then we will go to fight those who are far from us." In fact, Mu'az ibn Jabal had based his reply on a verse of the Quran which commands Muslims to fight unbelievers. "O you who believe! Fight those who are close to you of unbelievers and let them find in you hardness. And know that Allah is with those who believe in Him." Surah 9, 123. The Byzantine king offered to give a lot of money and clothes to the Arab Muslims if they agreed to forsake their fight with them and return to their countries, but the Muslims refused and insisted on fighting. The Byzantine army was not ready to go into major battle after the massive battle that fought against the Persian army, in which it lost half of its military power a mere 25 years ago. Also, the Byzantine Empire lost 1/3 of its population due to the plague which was known as the Black Death. 30 million people died in that deadly plague. All those factors combined together discouraged the Byzantines of fighting the invading army of Muslims and eventually contributed to their defeat in 3 major battles against the Muslims: Battle of Ajnadian, Battle of Fal, and Battle of the Yarmouk. In the final Battle of the Yarmouk, according to Dr. Raghaib el-Sergani, Muslims killed 140,000 Christian fighters. All the army of the Byzantine consisted of Greek Christians and Arab Christians. In fact, Muslims killed only 50,000 and 90,000 jumped to their death off the cliff when they had no place to flee from the killing machine of the Muslim army. Once again, it was Khalid who chose the battlefield, and he knew that there was only one way out for the Byzantines if they were defeated. The defeat of the Battle of the Yarmouk ended the control of the Byzantine Empire of Syria. The Byzantine Emperor, Heraclius, accepted the fact that the defeat of his army at the Battle of the Yarmouk was God's decision and a result of the sins of the people of the land, including his. Heraclius took to sea on a ship to Constantinople in the night. It is said that as his ship set sail, he bade a last farewell to Syria, saying, "Farewell, a long farewell to Syria, my fair province. Thou art an infidel's now. Peace be with you, O Syria, what a beautiful land you will be for the enemy." Battle of the Yarmouk. The Emperor Heraclius had correctly interpreted the defeat of his army, the loss of his lands, and the rapid spread of Islam as the scourge of God. According to most historians, the Arab Christians did not show much resistance to the invading Muslims' troops. Some historians went further than that and claimed the Arab Christians in fact gladly welcomed the Muslim Arabs and assisted them to occupy their lands because they were ill-treated by the Byzantine Empire. There was a religious disagreement about the nature of Christ, one nature versus two natures, and that difference led to many persecutions of the Arab Christians by the Greek Christians. During the Muslim siege of the second largest city, Damascus, which was considered the second capital of the Byzantine Empire after Constantinople, the Arab bishop of Damascus helped Khalid ibn al-Walid to enter the city. He informed Khalid that the Byzantine soldiers were having birthday party of a big military general and they were fully drunk and spent the entire night in orgy. Ever helpful, the bishop supplied ladders to Khalid and hence assisted him take the city. After the capture of Damascus, only Palestine and Lebanon still remained in the control of the Byzantines. Muslim troops went on to lead a siege on Aliyah. Jerusalem continued to be called by that name after it had been renamed 7 centuries ago by the Roman Emperor Hadrian. Jerusalem was renamed again by the Muslims and became known as Al-Qudus. When the city refused to surrender, Muslims used catapults and rained large stones on the city. At that time, only Christians dwelt in the city. Jews were forbidden from dwelling in Jerusalem. Most of them lived in small towns in Palestine. The inhabitants of Aliyah agreed to surrender, but they said they would surrender the city only to the Caliph Omar himself. Omar accepted their demand and came in person and received the keys of the city. When the Christians of Jerusalem surrendered to the Muslims and agreed to pay the jizya, one of their conditions to the Caliph Omar was not to allow any Jew dwell with them. Jews were allowed to come as pilgrims but not to stay in the city. Nonetheless, the city opened its doors to the Muslims and allowed them to dwell side by side with the Christians. Caliph Omar made an unfair pact with all the Arab Christians of Levant and made their religious leaders to sign it in every city and town and to abide by it. That infamous treaty is known as Omarian Pact and continued to be the guiding principles for centuries to come that govern the relationship between the Christians and Muslims. The renowned Muslim commentator of the Quran, Ibn Kathir, commenting on Surah Al-Tawbah 9:29, states, "Paying the jizya, by the Jews and Christians, is a sign of kafir, unbelief, and disgrace." Allah said, "Until they pay the jizya," Surah 9:29, if they do not choose to embrace Islam, with willing submission, in defeat and subservience. Prophet Muhammad said, "Do not initiate the salam, the greeting, to the Jews and Christians, and if you meet any of them in a road, force them to its narrowest alley." This is why the leader of the faithful Omar bin al-Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, demanded his well-known conditions, in the Omarian Pact, be met by the Christians, these conditions that ensured their continued humiliation, degradation, and disgrace. The Omarian Pact. These are the unfair conditions that the Caliph Omar bin al-Khattab forced the Arab Christians to write against their wishes. "We shall not build, in our cities or in their neighborhood, new monasteries, churches, convents, or monks' cells, nor shall we repair, by day or by night, such of them as fall in ruins or are situated in the quarters of the Muslims. We shall keep our gates wide open for passers-by and travelers. We shall give board and lodging to all Muslims who pass our way for 3 days. We shall not give shelter in our churches or in our dwellings to any spy, nor hide him from the Muslims. We shall not teach the Quran to our children. We shall not manifest our religion publicly nor convert anyone to it. We shall not prevent any of our kin from entering Islam if they wish it. We shall show respect toward the Muslims, and we shall rise from our seats when they wish to sit. We shall not seek to resemble the Muslims by imitating any of their garments, the kalansawa, the turban, footwear, or the parting of the hair. We shall not speak as they do, nor shall we adopt their kunyas, family names. We shall not mount on saddles, nor shall we gird swords nor bear any kind of arms nor carry them on our persons. We shall not engrave Arabic inscriptions on our seals. We shall not sell fermented drinks. We shall clip the fronts of our heads. We shall always dress in the same way wherever we may be, and we shall bind the zunar, belts for identification, round our waists. We shall not display our crosses or our books in the roads or markets of the Muslims. We shall use only clappers in our churches very softly. We shall not raise our voices when following our dead. We shall not show lights on any of the roads of the Muslims or in their markets. We shall not bury our dead near the Muslims. We shall not take slaves who have been allotted to Muslims. We shall not build houses overtopping the houses of the Muslims. When I brought the letter to Omar, may God be pleased with him, he added, "We shall not strike a Muslim. We accept these conditions for ourselves and for the people of our community, and in return we receive safe conduct. If we in any way violate these undertakings for which we ourselves stand surety, we forfeit our covenant, as dhimma, and we become liable to the penalties for contumacy and sedition. Omar ibn al-Khattab replied, sign what they ask, but add 2 clauses and impose them in addition to those, which they have undertaken. They are, they shall not buy anyone made prisoner by the Muslims, and whoever strikes a Muslim with deliberate intent shall forfeit the protection of this pact. In spite of those unfair conditions of the Omarian pact, still the Christians of Levant preferred to be under the Muslim rule rather than the Christian Byzantine rule. As we have mentioned above, according to Ibn Kathir, the Caliph Omar ibn al-Khattab made those unfair conditions with the Nasara of the Sham, Christians of Levant. In fact, the Quran and Hadiths of Muhammad never call the followers of Christ, Christians. Until today, Islam addresses them as Nasara. Nasara means the followers of the sect of the Nazarenes, a derogatory name given by the Jews to the early followers of Jesus of Nazareth. The Jews who rejected Jesus refused to call him Christ and refused to call his followers Christians, but called them Nasara. In order to humiliate, degrade, and disgrace the Nasara, the second Caliph Omar forced them to accept those conditions because they refused to accept the prophethood of their master Muhammad. After the defeat of the Byzantine army and capturing the main 2 cities in Levant, Damascus and Jerusalem, 2 important occurrences took place. The Caliph Omar was killed by a Persian Muslim convert as revenge, and a deadly plague began in a small village in Palestine called Emmaus, which killed 75% of the Muslim soldiers who participated in the jihad at Levant. The plague killed many soldiers and leaders, including the chief commander of the Muslim armies, Abu Ubaidah al-Jirah. Khalid lost 18 of his sons in that deadly plague. He made many Arab, Christian, and Zoroastrian women, widows and children, orphans. He murdered 2 leaders and raped their wives on the same day he killed their husbands. He died a broken-heart man. He continued to lament the loss of his sons, and while he was dying in his bed he said, I am dying as an old she-camel dies. For the Arabs that is the worst and the most shameful death. I believe the plague was the punishment of God for the atrocities that Muslim mujahideen had done in Persia and Levant. It wasn't a coincidence that the plague started in the village Emmaus, in which Jesus had a supper with 2 of his disciples after his resurrection, Luke 24:13-32. According to the historian, Bachelor, the invasions of Muslims to the Levant region resulted in the destruction of churches and monasteries, the sacked towns, the fields laid waste, the villages burned down, by the Arabs who were overrunning the country. Bachelor, the decline of Eastern Christianity by Islam, From Jihad to Similitude, London, 1996, page 44. Thousands of Christians died of famine that resulted from those attacks. Michael the Syrian mentioned that Omar sent Khalid with an army to the Aleppo, Halab, and Antioch region. There they murdered large number of people. No one escaped them. Whatever may be said of the evils that Syria suffered, they cannot be recounted because of their great number, for the Arabs are God's wrath. Michael the Syrian, Volume 2, page 421. Muslims interpreted their rapid victories over the armies of the 2 superpowers at that time, the Byzantine Empire and the Persian Empire, as divine favor. Nevertheless, historians pointed to many factors which contributed to the quick defeats of the Persians and Byzantines. The long-lasting wars between those 2 rival empires exhausted their military powers and financial resources. The Byzantine army was not ready to go into major battle after the massive battle that fought against the Persian army, in which it lost half of its military power, decimated by a previous battle. Besides, the victory of the Arab Muslims over the Greek Byzantines was facilitated by the enemy within, the Arab Christians. Some of the Arab Christians smoothed the progress of the Arab Muslim troops by their unwillingness to resist their advance and by literally helping them through spying and supplying the needed assistance to enter the fortressed cities such as Damascus and Jerusalem. The assassination of the Caliph Omar ibn al-Khattab. Omar used to warn his leaders and governors not to send any slave or a newly convert Muslim to his capital city in Medina. He feared one of their number, deprived of their wives, children, and relatives, might seek revenge on him. He called non-Arab people, al-Alug, which means dirty and unclean people. So in every letter he ordered his governors to keep the al-Alug out of his reach. In spite of his fears and orders, one of the so-called al-Alug managed to reach him and take revenge for his family and children. The Wikipedia gives us good introduction to this person who murdered the highest religious authority of the emerging Islamic State. Piraz Nahavandi, which means Piraz the Victorious. He also known by Arabs as Abu Lu'lu'ah al-Nahawandi. They also call him Abu Lu'lu'ah al-Fayrizi, Abu Lu'lu'ah the Persian. He was a Persian soldier who served under the commander Rustam Farrukhzad, but was captured in the Battle of Al-Qadisiyah in 636 AD, when the Persians were defeated by the Arab Muslim army of Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab on the western bank of the Euphrates River. After he was brought to Arabia as a prisoner, he managed to assassinate Umar in the Hijra year 23, 644-645. Abu Lu'lu'ah the Persian was one of the men who were taken captives in the city of Nahawand, in today Iran. The Arab Muslims destroyed his house, family, children, and his country without them having done no evil to them. After he lost everything, he had been taken as captive to al-Muqarra ibn Shaba to work as his slave. For some reason al-Muqarra sent him to Medina. When he reached Medina, he was grieved to see the captive children of his city and country and other countries filling the streets of the city. He searched with heavy heart for his children among them but could not find them. The crying of those wretched children increased his grief. According to the Muslim historian Ibn Sa'd, Abu Lu'lu'ah used to meet the children of captivity, and whenever he saw them he used to cry and feel their heads with his hands and say, "The Arabs ate my liver." Then he killed Omar as a revenge for what he had done to the captives. Ibn Sa'd, Al-Tabaqat al-Kubra, Volume 3, page 271. Abu Lu'lu'ah murdered the Caliph Omar inside the mosque during the morning prayer. He pretended to be a Muslim and entered the mosque to pray behind the Caliph Omar. While the Caliph and the rest of the Muslims were kneeling in their prayer, Abu Lu'lu'ah stopped his prayer and moved forward and stabbed the Caliph Omar to death. He stabbed him 6 times in his neck, chest, and stomach. He used a poisoned dagger to kill the devil incarnate, the Caliph Omar ibn al-Khattab. Abu Lu'lu'ah knew and understood there was nothing could avenge the evils that the Muslim Mujahideen had done to him, to his family, and to his Persian people than hitting the serpent on its head. It was the same method and for the same reason that the prophet of Satan, Muhammad, was poisoned by the Jewish captive girl, Zainab bint al-Harith, who sent him to hell before his time. Otherwise, that false prophet would have lived longer and taught more evil teachings.